Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming down on a rainy Halloween. This morning we're going to talk about the arrest of 3 break-and-enter suspects from last evening in South Vancouver. At around 5:30 on October 30th, our officers located a pickup truck in a parking lot on Granville Street, right where it turns into Southwest Marine Drive. The pickup truck had 3 suspects in there that were involved in a break-and-enter about an hour before on West 37th near Granville Street. Our officers came up with a plan which included the use of our Canine unit to make an arrest. Our officers rolled up on the suspects. They activated their emergency equipment. 2 of the suspects were immediately taken into custody without any sort of incident. The 3rd suspect got out of the vehicle and immediately ran, and he ran towards Granville Street. Our officers gave chase, including a Canine unit, and they watched as this suspect approached a taxi full of people. It appeared that he tried to get these people out of the cab, assumingly so he could flee. That didn't work out for him, so the suspect continued that didn't work out for him, so the suspect continued across Granville Street where there was a Mercedes parked at the gas station. The suspect was able to get the driver out of that vehicle, and as he attempted to get away in that car, it did not go into motion, but our dog handlers were able to get him in the driver's seat along with our officers. He was taken into custody before any further harm could be done. Unfortunately, as that man started to flee from the vehicle at the beginning, a dog was deployed to apprehend him, and at the same time a 75-year-old Vancouver man had exited his vehicle and somehow got between the dog and the suspect. And our dog did make contact with the 75-year-old man, did bite him in the leg. He was taken to hospital where he was treated and later released. I'll try to answer any questions that we can. I should also say that 3 suspects are still in custody, and we're anticipating charges later today. We're working with Crown Counsel at this time.
You said there were multiple break-and-enters, talking about all in the same day, same neighborhood. What can you tell us about what they allegedly did?
Right now, we can say that there's at least 2 break-and-enters. I anticipate we'll see charges on today that occurred on October 30th. The one is on West 37th near Granville. The other one, I believe, actually occurred in Maple Ridge. We're working with our partner agencies to see if there's any other crimes that are immediately connected to these suspects.
How did you end up knowing that they were in this pickup? Did you get a tip that they were fleeing the scene in the pickup?
The break-and-enter on West 37th Street was witnessed. We were provided with a very distinct description of the vehicle, including a license plate and a description of the 3 suspects. There's no doubt that the 3 people that we arrested were allegedly involved in the earlier break-and-enter.
What did they steal?
A quantity of stolen property was recovered from the suspects at that time, and actually from both break-and-enters, the one in Maple Ridge and from the one on West 37th. We're working now just to put each piece of property back to its owner.
Were they known to police or were they gangs?
We're not providing any additional information on the suspects at this point. We anticipate charges later today, and once that occurs, we hope to release their name and a little bit more information.
How does it normally work with a police dog? So you let the dog go, and the dog has a suspect or has a subject he or she is supposed to chase, and then if something gets in the way, I'm trying to figure out how this happened.
Our canine teams, they train for these scenarios all the time. Our officers go to about 7. Our canine officers are deployed to approximately 7,000 calls for service every year. Luckily, this is very, very rare. Actual dog bites are rare compared to the number of calls that they actually go to. Just because a dog is deployed doesn't mean a bite occurs. Quite often an arrest will occur, but it doesn't always end in bites. Can you ask me your question one more time?
Well, how does this work? So you know there's a suspect. Does the dog then, the order is to go after a certain suspect? And how is it that the dog then ends up biting the wrong person? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
So there was an arrest plan that was set up yesterday. To walk you through it, the pickup truck was parked in a parking stall, nose in towards a business. There's 3 suspects inside. Our dog handler came up behind the vehicle, prevented his escape route. 2 of the suspects immediately surrendered. They were arrested without incident, but the driver, or the 3rd guy, get out and he ran. At that point, it was all, as a part of training, the plan was to deploy the dog to immediately effect the arrest. Somehow, the 75-year-old man got in between the suspect and the dog, And this, unfortunately, the 75-year-old man was bitten. We feel very badly about that. I can tell you that the dog handler himself is affected by this, but our main priorities now is for this man to get healthy, and we're providing him support in any way we can.
Can you tell us about his injuries?
We're not providing specifics about his injuries. I can say that he was taken to hospital where he was treated and he was released.
Was it a different canine that ended up actually getting the suspect then? There was more than one?
Yes, there was.
So there were 2 dogs involved in the arrest then?
There was at least 2 dogs involved in the arrest. I can tell you that the dog that was involved in biting the 75-year-old man, that scenario will be dissected in the days to come. So we have training officers in our canine unit that will review it. The sergeants will then review it. Then the inspector or the manager will review it. It'll get passed on to our professional standards section and then to the OPCC for review. Our goal here is to find out what happened, how we can prevent that in the future from happening to anyone else.
So it was the second, the dog that, just trying to understand this.
Yes.
You roll up behind this pickup truck, this dog is deployed. Was that the dog that bit the 75-year-old man, or was it a different dog?
The dog that was initially deployed to make the initial apprehension is the dog that bit the 75-year-old man.
And where was the 75-year-old man?
75-year-old man was in the parking lot. He had just stepped out of his vehicle. He was beside his truck.
At the gas station?
No, in the parking lot of, it's the old Fraser Arms, I believe. So
Is that where this happened, the old Fraser?
that's where it began, yes.
And so you didn't clear out other people before this operation happened? Is that going to be looked at? Like this, so the fact that there was another gentleman leaving his car at the same time as this happened, is that something that's going to be looked at? Like should maybe that parking lot have been cleared before you started this arrest?
As I said, our officers will dissect this piece by piece. We're going to slow it down. We're going to look at all the available information. And that includes talking to witnesses. That includes video surveillance. That includes talking to the officers that were there. Our goal here is to create a safe environment to arrest the bad guys, but also not at the, our goal here is to arrest the bad guys and to ensure public safety. And in this situation, something didn't go as planned, and we're going to try to identify what happened here and how we can prevent it in the future.
So the 75-year-old man was in the parking lot of the former Fraser Arms Hotel, but you mentioned a gas station where this suspect ran to try to get in a Mercedes.
That's right.
Where's the gas?
So the gas station in relation to the Fraser Arms was?
I believe it's northeast, so it's on the opposite side of Granville Street.
So why was the dog in the Fraser Arms and not?
Do you want me to walk you? I can walk you through the, maybe I'll try to make it a bit clearer for you, because I may have muddied the water a little bit. So to walk you through it, there was a break and enter yesterday afternoon at around 4:30 in South Vancouver. We had a great description of the suspects in the vehicle. About an hour later, our officers located the same vehicle and the suspects parked in a parking lot at the old Fraser Arms. Our officers moved in. They made an arrest plan, which included the use of canine officers. 2 of the men were arrested without incident. The 3rd decided to flee. A police dog was deployed to apprehend the suspect that was fleeing. Unfortunately, a 75-year-old man in the parking lot was bitten by that police dog. The suspect carried on, where he ran across traffic. At one point, he tried to take over a taxi cab. That didn't work out. He continued on to a gas station across the street where he got into the driver's seat of a Mercedes, where he was arrested by a second dog handler and other officers.
So the dog that bit the 75-year-old carried on?
That's, no.
No,
our main objective, so the 75-year-old man was bitten. That dog handler immediately removed the dog. That dog handler and other officers immediately stopped and offered first aid to this gentleman. They got him emergency services. They got him to the hospital to make sure that his well-being was looked after. The remainder of the officers and additional dog handlers continued on to effect the arrest.
So that delayed a bit the arrest because they had to stop to take care of you?
It didn't really delay the arrest. We had a lot of resources in place, and thankfully, thankfully we were able to arrest these people as well, but our main concern became the 75-year-old man.
Was it a single bite where the dog was just holding on?
I don't have specifics of the bite. I can say that the man was transported to hospital where he was treated and released a short time later.
Vancouver man, do you know?
He is a Vancouver man.
So this is the second incident in a couple of years, as I recall, where that we know of anyway, that a dog mistakenly, Vancouver police dog mistakenly bit someone, thinking of Vic Supranium in New West, when we were arresting some homicide suspects.
Mhm.
So there was that case, and now there's this case. So what should the public make this? You say it's rare, but that's 2 in 2 years.
I don't understand your question. Sorry. Can you just ask? Sorry. Can you ask me your question again if you have a question?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
What should the public make of somebody being mistakenly bitten by a police dog? It's 1 in 2016, and there's 1 now. So what do you say to that?
We want the public to know that our officers in our canine unit are highly, highly trained and professional officers. They take these sort of very rare incidents seriously. So they are dissecting this. They are going to figure out what happened, where we can do better, and how to prevent this from happening in the future.
Is the Independent Investigations Office looking into this?
I do not believe that the injuries met the threshold of the IAO.
Okay. But reportable injuries each time a police dog breaks the skin, say, of a suspect or another person, that's recorded as a reportable injury. So how many of those has the DPD reported this year, you know?
I don't have the specific numbers. If you want to send me an email, I'll do my best to locate them. Our dogs are deployed, under law. They have to make sure that they're in the lawful execution of their duties, and then they're being deployed lawfully. But they're also under VPD policies, VPD training, police standards of BC. There's lots of rules in place to ensure that that our dogs are used and deployed in a proper manner. This is very rare, and we're sorry that it happened, and we're doing our best to ensure that this doesn't occur again.
How long has the dog been working?
I don't have that information.
This all happened so the Fraser Arms, this all happened at the Fraser Arms and across the street.
That's right.
It didn't go further than that.
It did not.
And it was across Granville Street? Is the gas station? You know what kind
Yes.
of-
It's a Chevron.
It's a Chevron. Okay.
Do you know how long the dog was holding on to the loop?
I don't, but I don't think that's important here. I think the important thing here is our dog bit someone that wasn't the intended target, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
So would the dog does the dog be taken off duty or what happens?
Just before you walked in, we were talking about how this will be reviewed. So at this point, the dog handler, the dog itself, they'll be meeting with the trainers. They'll be looking at all the different information, but the trainers will first review all the available information, try to determine what happened and what went wrong. That information will then be reviewed by the sergeants in charge. From there, they will also move the information on to the inspector, who is their manager, who has a global view, who will then turn it to our professional standards for another look, and then the professional standards section will move it on to the civilian oversight of the OPCC. Our goal here is to make sure that we identify what happened and how we can prevent it in the future.
And after that, then it's decided if the dog will continue.
Yeah, that could be additional training, could be a number of things, but it's too early to tell.
And in the meantime, the dog would still be on duty then? Or?
That'll be a decision that's made by management. I don't have the answer for that.
So the suspect who was arrested by the other dog, did that suspect require hospitalization?
Yes. He was also briefly treated at the hospital and taken to jail.
And he required hospitalization because of the dog bite?
That's right. And yes.
No charges yet then, just the 3 in custody?
The 3 men are in custody. I believe 2 of them are in their 40s, one's in the 30s. I'm trying to give you the municipalities, but it's not important at this point. But later today, we anticipate charges are going to be laid in relation to break and enters, and at least 1 robbery charge is what we're anticipating.
And fleeing police for one of them?
Yeah. We work with Crown Counsel very closely. We're going to provide them with the most accurate information we can so they can make the appropriate decision.
Are they Vancouver men?
I believe there's 1 Vancouver, 1 Richmond, and I want to say 1 Surrey.
Were any of these men armed during the break and enters?
That's going to form part of the investigation. I can tell you that no one was hurt during the break and enters.
Was anyone home?
We're still trying to confirm. At this point, I do not have information that anyone was home at the time, but we are speaking to the homeowners to confirm that. Okay.
So what about Halloween? Are you doing something more often?
So for Halloween, does anybody need to take a break? Are you good to move on? So the Vancouver Police